right, and welcome to another office hours edition. Right now, I'm just gonna kind of leave this screen up here so that you could get situated. You could watch this video for a second before we have anybody coming in. Hey everybody, Mr. Carbonaro here at NJ Carbonaro on Twitter. You can find me at my website, nickcarbonaro.com. You can email me, ncarbonaro@lbcc.edu. And we are here with another edition of our virtual office hours. We are starting the spring semester. The second half of the spring semester. We are starting the second half of the spring semester, getting ready to go. Got rejuvenated over that spring break. Hopefully we're ready to tackle the second half of the semester. I always think second half goes a little bit faster than the first half, just because with the first half you're coming back from your winter break, you're kind of sluggish. We got it's still dark out at 5 o'clock in February. It's the coldest month out of the year, all that type of stuff. But now it's April 10th. We're in the swing of things, right? We're getting back into the swing of things and making sure that, the sun's out, we're getting ready to go. But right now, just waiting, we're just starting this live stream right at 5:30. Gonna wait for a few more people to come in here before we start off. I'm just gonna kind of go over a few things, get us back in the swing of things after spring break. Make sure we catch up with stuff. All the grades are graded, so if you're looking at your grades online, if you're in my online GBiz 10 class, I updated all the grades for you. GBiz 5, all your TED Talks are in there, all the tests are in there, all the everything's in there. Your top hats are updated, ready to go. Same thing for GBiz 10 as well. My in-class GBiz 10 classes, we got everything updated right at the beginning of spring break. I cleaned up everything. I wanted to make sure that when you went on spring break, you had everything cleaned up, you had everything ready to go. But yeah, so we'll wait just another minute, get people to come in here, and then I'll go over the three different classes I teach. GBiz 5, GBiz 10, and social media. We'll go over what we're doing in each one, and then we'll go from there. So we'll wait about 30 more seconds, and then we'll have everybody come in here. Ten seconds, and then we'll get started. All right. GBiz 10 Online. You know what? GBiz 10 Online, we'll start with you, since the two of you are probably here for our GBiz 10 Online. GBiz 10 Online, what we're going to be doing this week is, I believe, going over Chapter 10. I gave you spring break off, so nothing was due yesterday, so everything will be due this Sunday night. I went through the rosters of GBiz 10. I cleaned up everything. I made sure that all the grades were inputted. I made sure that I dropped some people, so check your status to see. If you've just been tuning in to my live streams but not doing any of the work, thank you for building up my YouTube channel, but you are dropped from the class, so if you're not doing a lot of work. So if you're not doing your work, I drop people that probably aren't even here, so it doesn't really matter. But cleaned up everything. All your grades are inputted. I just inputted the ones from over spring break. Sorry I didn't get to it. Long Beach City College updated the LMS system, so there were some technical difficulties with putting stuff in there. And then I saw on my end, I accidentally saw it as the 2nd rather than the 3rd. I thought it was at 3rd on the midnight rather than 2nd at 11:59. And so on April 2nd, April 3rd, if that's the reason why I opened up that homework assignment an extra day, and that those assignments that were due before spring break an extra day, because the way that I accidentally did it, instead of saying April 2nd at 11:59, I accidentally put April 2nd at midnight when it was supposed to be April 3rd at midnight, which would have been the correct way of doing it. But yeah, we're just doing all our stuff. All your grades have been inputted, and the thing with the grades, I'm going to try to play around with the new LMS system. I haven't really checked out the new grade setup for LMS, but your grades are up there, so don't be startled if you see, like, as of right now, if you have an F, because it's counting the empty grades. It means it's counting the zeros as well that we haven't done yet. So kind of look at your performance thus far, and you can kind of get a sense of where you're at. The My Finance Lab, those are raw scores, so don't necessarily take those into consideration when you're thinking about your overall grade. So for GBIZ 10, we're doing our multiple discussion questions, as well as the assignment and the quiz. And then the next test you have is the final at the very end of the year. So these next 8 weeks, just hunker down, right? Hunker down, make sure that everything is ready to go. That's our GBIZ 10 online. Our social media class, social media, intro to social media, digital and social media. If you're watching this and you don't take my social media class, not only do I highly suggest taking it, because it's one of the top paying jobs in the future, one of the future employment opportunities is going to be digital and social media marketer. And so, or dealing with digital and social media stuff. We go over a variety of stuff. We go over the communications, the ethics, the etiquette, the different platforms. So this week we're going to be starting new platforms. We're going to be starting Twitter. We're going to be starting Facebook. We're going to be starting a bunch of different platforms for the rest of the week, introducing the final project, which is a website that connects to your social links. So please make sure that we are that we're coming to class this week, because we're going to get started on a lot of stuff. And so with our social media class, that's what we're doing. If you're in my GBIZ 25 on Wednesday night class, we're actually going to be doing our presentations for our LinkedIn and our infographics on Wednesday night. If you see the syllabus, we're actually a week ahead. So we're going to be doing our presentations, and then the following week, or even later that night, we're going to be starting apps. Our in-class GBIZ 25 Tuesday, Thursday class, you guys, we're going to be starting applications this week, and more hands-on stuff. So that's for GBIZ 25 and introducing the final project for the final 8 weeks of the class. It's our final project with that. So let's get started with GBIZ 25. The way that I'm going to do it, we're at about 8.5 minutes right now for we're almost at 9 minutes for this live stream so far. And so I'm going to go over these next 2 course outlines for the week. And then after that, I'm actually going to review for our GBIZ 10 test. So we have a GBIZ 10 test on Thursday, but I'm going to be doing a little review session today to make sure that we're good. Online GBIZ 10, this really doesn't pertain to you because we're doing a test on chapters 5, 7, and 8, and you already took your midterm on that. So it doesn't really pertain to you. But for the GBIZ 10 in class, we're going to go over that test, the second half of this video. So if you know anybody in that GBIZ 10 class, I would highly suggest them to watch the video because it has a review. So and do that. So here we go. Let's just start off with GBIZ 5. We'll start off with GBIZ 5, and then we'll go to GBIZ 10, and then we'll go to the review session. So our GBIZ 5. So the good thing about our GBIZ 5 class now is that you see, and first of all, before I even talk, how's the volume out there? Just type it in. Is it better quality? I got a new microphone, and so I want to make sure that it's working properly. If it's working more crisp and clear than my old one. So let me make myself smaller. But if you have any quality issues with the microphone, please just type in. Let me know if there's any quality issues. But all right, so here we go. GBiz 5. This is us. We had our TED Talk due right at the end of the spring break, and I believe those are inputted. I believe I graded those. Those are inputted into LMS. Everything's done. TED Talks are done for the semester. First half of the semester we do TED Talks. Second half we really focus on the group project. So you can see TED Talk number 3 is done. If you haven't looked at the online lectures, because remember Chapter 7 was an online lecture, part of Chapter 6 was one as well, make sure you go back and you look at those online lectures to make sure that you're ready to go, because even though the test is not until April 25th and 2 weeks from tomorrow, it's good to get a head start. So tomorrow and Thursday, we're going to be talking about management. We're going to be going over management. We are in the management phase, but we're going to be talking about operations management. So facilities planning, site planning, all that type of stuff. Chapter 9 is human resource management. And then we have a guest speaker. So I would make sure highly to come on April 20th. I'm probably also going to live stream that through my phone or through my iPad to make sure that people actually get to experience our guest speaker that aren't there. So really, really good guy. I've known him for almost a decade now, and entrepreneur, taking his skills to big corporations, CEO, as well as government. So that is a week from this Thursday, but for us, we're just doing Chapter 8, and I'm probably going to introduce the group project. I'm probably going to talk more about the group project tomorrow at the beginning of class, making sure that I'm going to go over an example of a good one to show you kind of how it's lined up and everything. So that's on Monday. All the information's here. We are coming up in less than a month to the drop deadline, so make sure if we're dropping, I'll make sure to remind everybody of that, but we're going to be doing that. So that's GBiz 5. That's our GBiz 5 class. We could do our GBiz 10. You see for GBiz 10 right here, we did Chapter 8, which was on interest rates. So we did that for those 2 days on Chapter 8. So we're good with that. Your assignment number 2 is due. It's already inputted, and you only have one more assignment left, and that's not due until a month from now. So we're really good with that. As far as this week is no new information is being taught this week because we are ahead of the game. So remember, tomorrow we have a guest speaker. Make sure you arrive early for the guest speaker. He's going to be talking about cybersecurity, kind of going off of stuff that we talked about in Chapter 7, but more in depth about phishing, about skimmers, about protecting yourself with LastPass and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to live stream that as well. Probably my PCC class I'll probably live stream because there's a better way to live stream in that room than the other room. The other room's pretty congested, but the PCC classroom, it's a little bit bigger, so I could set up the tripod at the very back of the room. So I'll probably try to live stream him if I can. If I can, I'll have to see what's going on. And then Thursday's test number 2. So we have test number 2, and that's what I'm going to be going over in about 30 seconds. I'm going to be starting the review for that, and then we'll close up the live stream after the review. But that is exactly what we're going to be doing. We have our guest speaker talking about cybersecurity and protecting ourselves from credit fraud, and then Thursday we have test number 2. So that's what we're doing. So I know we still only have 2 people. Anybody of those 2 people, are you guys part of online? I know I see Caesar who's online, but the other person that's watching, are you in LAC, PCC? Is Gary out there? Gary's always in my live streams right now. Gary's like my #1 fan out there. No, but learning a lot, so that's good. But yeah, so let's get started. Let me get my thing situated, and then we'll go over the little review. Shouldn't be too hard because we went through a lot of the stuff on the top hat, a lot of the stuff on homework, a lot of the stuff in class, so shouldn't be too much stuff. So let me get situated real quick, and I will come right back for the review session. All right. Here we are for the review, and I got the test right in front of me. It's 17 full questions, but you know how our tests are for this class. We got multiple questions in each question, so I believe it's about 30 total questions after you take into account some of them have 2 to 3 parts in them, but not too bad. I really think we should be solid with it. I really think that after the first test is always tricky, first test is always hard, but I think we should be good. And if you have any questions, type them in the comment section, type them in the chat, so that we could go over it and we could talk about it. So all right, let's just go through this. So we were 17 minutes in. Not going to go more than 10 minutes. I know I always say 10 minutes and then it ends up being 25, but we're not going to do over 10 minutes for this one because this is going to be easy. So let's see this. If you are taking the test, right, maybe you want to look at your study guide at this moment. Maybe you want to compare what I'm going to say. So it says one of the first questions is to know the different types of depository institutions. Right? So if you know those different types of depository institutions, you'll be fine. So what does a commercial bank provide? What does a commercial bank do? What are credit unions? What makes a credit union different than a commercial bank? So there's a key word in there that makes a credit union different compared I'll just give you a hint. It's regarding profit. Credit union is something regarding profit. So that's the first question that we have. Types of depository institutions. Describe and compare 2 types of depository institutions discussed in class, and commercial banks and credit unions. If you know those 2, you should be fine. We have what is a financial conglomerate. So what is a financial conglomerate? I've talked about this. It's a type of institution out there. Remember, we have the 3 types of institutions: depository, non-depository, and financial conglomerate. What is a financial conglomerate? What does it mean to be a financial conglomerate? In that same chapter, in chapter 5, we go over different types of banking services, right? There's about 8 of them we went over. We went over, checking services, monitoring your account, reconciling your account, travelers checks, cashier's checks, safe deposit box. We went over a bunch of them in class. So I'm going to give you a list of about 4 or 5 different types of banking services, and you're going to have to check the ones that are there. So make sure you go and look through those. Debit versus credit card. So again, from chapter 5, we talk about the difference between a debit card versus a credit card. So what is a credit card? Remember we talked about that? I made it very, very clear in class. I kept saying a credit, it's not how much you can spend. It's the amount that you are allowed by the bank, right? It's the amount that you're borrowing from the bank. So it allows you to purchase goods and services on credit. And if you don't pay off that entire balance, each month you'll incur a finance charge. And what's a finance charge? It's just the interest rate, right? So make sure you know the difference between a debit and a credit card. Some of the special services of the banking and banking. So remember we talked about that. I just talked about that like 2 minutes ago. So special services, the ATMs, safe deposit box, traveler's checks, cashier's checks. We did a whole top hat on that. So, excuse me, we did a whole top hat on that. So make sure we're good with that. Influence of interest rates. So what does an interest rate mean, right? What is the effect on deposits? What is the effect on borrowing money? So remember to know the difference between those two. What happens when there's poor economic conditions regarding interest rates? So at the end of chapter 5, there's a chart, and we went over that chart in class. I drew it up on the board. It was one of the very few times where I actually went on the board and did stuff, because we usually do top hats, so that was on the board. And I drew and I said, okay, if there's bad economic conditions, and I compared it to like fruit and poultry in a meat department. So think about interest rates like this. A bank's job, not a bank's job. Well, it is a bank's job. So a bank's primary product is money. They offer money, right? Makes sense. Banks supply money to you. You put your money into the institution. They then use your money. They give it to other people who have loans. They replenish your account by the interest paid off of those loans. So, and with new members coming in and stuff, and new customers coming in. So when poor economic conditions happen, meaning when the economy tanks, 10 years ago, 2007, 2008, well, 2008, 2009, because 07 was the boom, 08 was the bust. So 08, 09, economy goes in the tank. In a vacuum sealed world, in the perfect world without politicians doing their own little, we know better than economic trends and stuff like that. In the perfect world, in a perfect economic condition world, what happens is this. You have a poor economic condition. Well, think about your food. Think about when you go to the grocery store. I like to go shopping every Sunday, Monday morning before anybody's up. So I'm there like at 7:30 in the morning. I just get done from the gym. I go to the grocery store. So I go to the grocery store. I go to the fruit section, right? My son loves bananas. So I go and get a banana. Well, there's two different piles for bananas, right? They have the really, really green ones, the ripe ones, the yellow ones that are just got ripened, right? And those are at normal price, right? Those bananas are at normal price. But then you have like a little section, a little box maybe, and there's discounted bananas. And why? Because they're about ready to go out of style, right? They're about ready to bruise or ready to brown up. They're not good. And so what do you do with that, right? What does that mean? How does that relate to interest rates? Well, think about those bananas as being the product in a poor economic system, right? You have the economy of the bananas. You have good ones that are doing good, and that's the good economy. And you're going to have maybe even pay a premium on those bananas if they're really good and not ripe yet and stuff. But then with the poor economic conditions, the bad bananas, what do you have? You have to discount them. Well, same thing happens in poor economic conditions with interest rates, right? If there's poor economic conditions, the bank has to entice you to borrow money, because if it's poor economic conditions, you're not spending your money. You're holding it. You're spending it on other things. Maybe you're paying off debt. You're managing your money during those financial crises. So what the bank offers is lower interest rates during that time. So when the poor economic conditions happen, the demand for funds actually decrease, and the interest rates get lowered because of it. So that's what we're talking about with the economic conditions and interest rates. Depository institutions, define that. There's going to be a definition. It's going to ask you true or false if that's the definition or not. Put that on your note card. I'm going to give you an example one. I'm going to say, hey, is this an example of a depository institution, true or false? You're going to have to answer it. What are credit unions? Again, relating to depository and non-depository institution. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. I think I already told it earlier in the video, but earlier in the live stream, but it's that. Using credit. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of using credit? So I'm going to give you a list of stuff of why you would use a credit card, and depending on our discussion in class, one of those will be the answer. So why would you want to use a credit compared to pulling from your savings? Why would you want to use a credit from rather than doing other things? So There's good uses of credit. Remember I said good uses of credit. Credit report. So memorize that chart that I put on one of the slides in Top Hat in Chapter 7 on your credit report. There's 6 different things that go into the credit report. I'm going to give you 4, and I'm going to say which one doesn't belong. So make sure you know what goes into your credit score. That's in the book. That's in Top Hat. Identity theft. What is identity theft? Define it. Simple, straight out of the book. Just define your identity theft. Define it. Identity theft tactics. Know what they do. That's that chart of 6 that I put on our sway. This wasn't through a Top Hat, actually. This lecture was through a sway. So make sure you go download that sway or click on that link for the sway. I put it in Top Hat. I put it in on our LMS page. There's 5 of them: shoulder surfing, dumpster diving, pretexting, skimming, and phishing. Know each one of the definitions. Those are all on the test. Every single one of those. It's going to be a matching one. So you're going to have A through E on one side, and you're going to have to match shoulder surfing with the right definition, pretexting with the right definition. Credit limit. Know what a credit limit is. Define a credit limit. And then how can you increase your credit limit? So that was a Top Hat question. So we did, or that was a Top Hat question. We did that question in class. Know what a grace period is. What is a grace period and how can you use it to your advantage? So remember we talked about buying certain items and I wrote the dates up on the board. You're not going to have to do any calculation with those dates, but just know those scenarios. So make sure you review your notes. And then lastly, interest rate. You're going to want to multiply the simple interest rate. Very, very simple. I'll say something. You just borrowed $10,000 and you have a simple interest and is charged a simple interest rate of 10%, right? $10,000 and you're charged a simple interest rate of 10%. How much interest do you pay each year? So that's very easy. All you'd have to do is go 10,000 times 10%. That would be 1,000. You type in your answer 1,000. You round to the nearest dollar, and you'd get your answer. And then you put that on there. So super, super simple. I think the test is really easy. But any questions before we? Any questions before we sign off? I just like totally took out my under my desk. My surge protector. So. Any questions before we sign off of this live stream? Any questions before we sign off? I'll give you 1 more minute and then we'll sign off. If you have any questions, make sure we sign off. All right, if there's no other questions out there, make sure that we're back ready for spring break. We're getting ready to go for spring break. Make sure that everything's good. You're rejuvenated, you're ready to go, and you are solid for the second half of the semester. Other than that, if there's any other questions, again, tweet me at njcarbonaro, visit my website, nickcarbonaro.com, subscribe to this YouTube channel to get more information, or email me, ncarbonaro@lbcc.edu. Tell your friends about the YouTube channel. Be on the lookout for some emails regarding my social media class. I'm going to be sending out mass emails soon for social media. But if there's no other questions, no other anything, have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.